Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me now? I do apologize if you don't hear me on a regular basis, but I don't have an extra microphone for this tablet. I'll see what I can do, but all I can do is speak up. But in certain circumstances, I can't. If I'm in the grocery store, I can't. If I'm in the house and the husband's in bed, I can't. If I'm sitting out in the truck and the neighbors are sitting outside, I really can't. But for the most part, I do try to talk loud enough, and I do apologize. I'll try to fix it. If it doesn't, I, I'll do my best. How's that sound? All right. Woo. I'm fired up today. You know, I'm reading more, I'm absorbing more information, I'm fact checking everything that I see, and I'm listening to people that are absolutely bonkers. Bonkers. They're bonkers. When I talk about women's rights, I am serious about them. I am 54 years old, and I took for granted that women had rights. I was working in fields where it was man dominated. I never made the same pay, even though I did better or performed as good or better than they did because I really had to prove myself and I worked harder. I didn't get the equal pay when I started out, you know. Um, okay. Um, but when people say, we don't understand about women's rights, let me tell you something. Not every woman had the opportunity to be a homemaker, a housewife, and a mother. Some women had to get educated, find a job, start a career, and you know what? They're a hell of a lot happier than being stuck. Okay? That's why when men find wives, they should find wives that have the same like mind. When I got married, my husband had no problem with me being extremely independent with a job, my own checking account, my own savings account, taking care of business, but always having that independent side to me. And I think for him, it was because he had a first marriage where the wife didn't do anything. And then when they got divorced, he had to pay for everything, had to pay off some of her debt and this and that and everything. So when I came along, I didn't want any of that. I'm not worried. If we want to come together and pay bills, fine. If it's your week to pay that bill and I'll pay this bill, or we'll pay this bill, or I'll buy this for the household if you pay the bill. I mean, that's how it worked. Now, had my husband and I had children together, it might have been different because we did talk about that. Unfortunately, um, scientifically speaking, my husband could not be a father. So it was a good thing that I was very independent minded, that I would go to job, do a job every day, 6, 7 days a week sometimes more, sometimes less. I worked in man dominated fields. Um, Obviously, I never got the equal pay, um, but I did have to prove myself twice as hard, and I worked those jobs. Now, I ran spindle Davenport screw machines, Greenlee's, Acme's. I went to CNC operated machines. I did roofing, decking, siding. I worked at the feed mill for 2.5 years. Um, I did some man's jobs, quite a few. And it wasn't easy because men do not want to say, oh my God, she's as good or better than I am. They're not going to do that. It's a pride thing. I don't know why. Then I went into healthcare again, put my put my toe in healthcare, and I climbed a ladder to two department head positions in a nursing home facility. had I not had rights, I wouldn't have been able to do that. We're going to go back because if we go back to biblical times, which is what a white Christian nation is going to show as their values and morals, I would have to walk behind my husband, allow him to perpetrate me anytime that he wanted to, and if I resisted or he was not satisfied, he could beat me. Or say that I did something really bad, put me out in the middle of everybody and be stoned to death because his pride was hurt. Yeah, I'm glad that's not the case here because I hurt my husband's pride constantly. It's more joking than anything. But the point is if we go back to biblical times and use the morals and values of biblical times, women will be abused again, like in those times. And if you don't see the abusive nature of the Middle Eastern culture, which is what Christianity is, I know I know that's really hard for a lot of people to accept. But when you start talking about the Bible, you're talking about biblical times in the Middle East. Okay? Women still don't have the rights in the Middle East. They're still beat, persecuted, raped, killed, whatever. So, yeah, I don't want that here. Healthcare rights goes along with being able to get an education, financial stability and independence, owning property, very important rights for women. It's important for young girls to grow up independent of all other things, to get an education and then to work on a career and then decide what they're going to do. And yes, I'm saying it in that order because if not, they're going to fall into either government assistance or into a marriage where they are controlled financially, emotionally, mentally, and physically. So, yes, I do talk about women's rights. Women's health care rights. If I was raped and became pregnant, according to your all's laws, I cannot have an abortion, a medical procedure in the beginning, or take a pill in the beginning after the rape to resolve that issue. You would prefer me to carry that baby and then support that baby while you're taking away, your legislators are taking away WIC, SNAP, they're cutting SNAP. They're trying to cut any kind of child programs, feeding children in schools. Well, we don't think that we should have to pay for that. Okay, so what you're saying is already strapped families who are having a hard time buying groceries, paying the bills, paying for the gas, are sending their kids to school, and they have to pack them a breakfast or a lunch, or a breakfast and a lunch, or feed them breakfast before they leave, you know, an everyday event. So you're going to be costing parents more because they're going to have to provide that food if they're hurting. I mean, I'm sorry, but I hear these things and I don't hear a logical explanation for their opinions. What logically can you say when you say you don't want to feed children in school? Why? What is your explanation? What's the explanation? So that you cut kitchen staff in the schools? I mean, you wouldn't have to pay for the kitchen staff, you wouldn't have to pay for the food. Um, but what you're going to do is you're going to put more on the parents who are already financially strapped sending to public school because they can't afford private school and they're working too long and too many hours to provide homeschool. But since it doesn't affect you, go ahead and cut it. Those kids don't need to eat. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's not right. Women's rights are very important. Being able to own property, being able to vote, being able to get an education and be independent from the law of the land of Christians. Listen, I don't care what you do. All I do care is that you mind your own damn business. And that's the last thing I'm going to say. So yes, women's rights are very important. And anybody who poo-poos women's rights because you don't need them, then you're as narcissistic as your leader and his vice presidential candidate, who is a numbskull. This is a war on women. Whether you accept it or not, apparently you have not read Project 2025. You haven't heard what the Republican legislation and congressmen and senates are saying about women's rights. And as far as veterans go, you might want to look up the facts on who has put legislation in, who has voted against legislation, and who is the one who causes more problems for veterans through Congress and the Senate than anyone else. Look that one up when you're worried about your veterans. I'm just saying. Y'all have a great day. Hugs from a distance. I've got to go. I've got things to do, and I'm getting eat up again. Oh, another big mosquito bite on my knee. Uh oh. Bye, y'all. Hugs from a distance.